What do Falcons do? Rise up. Welcome to Rise Up Reactions, the show where we talk about the Falcons, NFL, Georgia sports, and in general the sports news of the day. I'm your host, Dr. Lee Ditting, the Golden Hard Doc, and a lifelong sports fan. Coming back to you today, talking about the Week 15 picks. Last week was god awful, went 6-9, brought me to 129 and 79 on the season. Most people did bad last week. I don't think the majority of people had a winning record last week, but it is what it is. Let's jump in though to this week's matchups because we got 16 of them and it's a lot to go through. So, right out the gate, Thursday Night Football, we have the LA Chargers at the Las Vegas Raiders. Chargers down Justin Herbert. Austin Eckler not looking like himself. Keenan Allen not looking great. And I just don't know what they have in this game. I don't know what they have to build on. The Raiders I picked to win last week, but ended up losing in probably the worst game anybody has seen in decades. In a 3-0 loss to the Minnesota Vikings. One which also saw Justin Jefferson go down again. But with this said, I do have more faith in the Raiders with Josh Jacobs, with Aiden O'Connell, who's been doing relatively okay, and then also Jimmy Garoppolo in reserve if they decide they're going to try to play and actually win the game. I have more faith in the Raiders to win this game at home, so give me the Las Vegas Raiders. Then we're going to go to the Minnesota Vikings at the Cincinnati Bengals. Jake Browning, had to go do a deep dive on him because I just didn't remember him at all. Now that I've seen him, I very much remember this guy when he was at Washington, and he looked great until he got hurt. He's had a long backup career in the NFL, and he's done really well with the opportunities given. He has the Bengals in a position to potentially make the playoffs, currently at 7-6 as a wild card team. Minnesota Vikings, 7-6 as well. You lost Justin Jefferson. You still have Josh Dobbs, who does not look particularly good at this point in time. Falcons are apparently the only team that make him look like a superstar. Minnesota, you won 3-0 at Las Vegas. I don't have a lot to say for you. You guys did not look good, and because of that, Cincinnati Bengals are going to roll on and be 8-6. Probably potentially make a playoff push here. Then we go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are down Kenny Pickett going up against the Indianapolis Colts. Colts lost this past week after being on a 4-game win streak to, I believe it was, to the Cincinnati Bengals. So, I do think the Indianapolis Colts in Indianapolis are a better team. I think this is really bad timing for Mike Tomlin to lose his quarterback. Because I don't think their backup in Mitch Trubisky is particularly good. I didn't ever think Mitch Trubisky was worthwhile when he was at Chicago. I didn't think he should be taken as high as he was in that draft, and that was one of the big errors that Chicago has made in the last decade. With that said, Gardner Minshew, solid quarterback. This is a Colts team that probably should be 8-5 or 9-4 if Anthony Richardson had been healthy. More or less, they are going to be going up against a solid Pittsburgh defense. I think this will be a low-scoring affair, but I do think the Indianapolis Colts find a way to pull it out in the end. Then we go to the Denver Broncos at the Detroit Lions. Detroit reeling. I think they've had 3 weeks in a row of losses. They lost to Green Bay. They lost to the Chicago Bears, and I can't remember. I feel like they've lost another one in there as well. They are not playing good football. Oh no, sorry, they beat the Saints. My bad. They're 2-1, but have looked bad being 2-1. You have the Denver Broncos, who are pushing for playoffs and have gone from being one of the worst defenses historically in the NFL to being a very competent, solid defense, forcing turnovers. They won this past week. They are looking to try and make a wild card spot in the playoffs. And the Lions still in control of their own destiny in the NFC North. But for whatever reason, the Lions just are not playing well right now. And until the Lions get it figured out, whatever it is that they are having a hiccup with on offense and defense, I can't in good conscience pick them. This is one that I'm going against the grain on, and I'm going to say Denver Broncos go into Detroit and get a win. Then we have the Chicago Bears going to the Cleveland Browns. Now, Cleveland has an amazing defense. Their offense leaves a lot to be desired, but they have found ways to win. But you got the Chicago Bears, who are catching fire at the right time. Now, the Bears have virtually no shot at making the playoffs. They would have to win out, and a lot of things would have to go in their favor over the next few weeks. So I'm not thinking this is a playoff team, but I am thinking that once again, towards the end of the season, Justin Fields is hitting his stride. He is carrying this team on his back, and they still are basically playing with house money. They right now have 2 top 5 draft picks. If they win this game, they will drop down a little bit, but they still maintain the number 1 overall draft pick with the Panthers trade for this past year. I just think the Chicago Bears are playing with house money, and I'm also going against the grain, taking the Chicago Bears in this game. Then we have the Atlanta Falcons at the Carolina Panthers. No, your video didn't freeze. I don't have a lot to say about this game. Falcons, if you lose this game, get rid of Arthur Smith. He's gone. Don't even think about keeping him. He needs to be gone if you do not win this game. So that's all I've got to say about that one. Falcons should take care of Carolina, should continue to allow Chicago Bears to have the number 1 overall draft pick. And, hopefully move back to 500 and continuing to compete for the division title, as much as that's worth right now. So, give me the Falcons. Then we're going to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Green Bay Packers. Tampa Bay playing relatively decent football. The Falcons kind of held them in check, gift-wrapped them 9 points this past week. Otherwise, they should not have won that game. Falcons found ways to just absolutely crap the bed in that one. So I don't think Tampa Bay is particularly a good team. I just think they showed up against a beat-up Falcons team and took advantage where they could. And the Falcons had enough mistakes cumulative on offense and defense and special teams to allow them to win. They're going to the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers, coming off of a loss this past week, still in contention for a playoff spot. I do think the Green Bay Packers win this one and help keep the Falcons competitive in the division. If the Packers win and the Falcons win, then the Falcons will move back into first place, and it really helps us down the stretch here. Then we're going to go to the Houston Texans at the Tennessee Titans. Houston Texans coming off of an embarrassing loss to the New Jersey Jets. I'll give them the New York title here, but coming off of a 30-6 loss where Devin Singletary was the only guy who could score, and then you also end up getting C.J. Stroud, who I believe went into concussion protocol, so Stroud really didn't have a good game at all. This is a game, they're going up against Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans also don't look particularly good, but did have a win this past week on Monday Night Football. I am going to say this. Tennessee Titans, if Houston does not play Stroud, if he is out, I will be picking the Titans. If Stroud plays, I'm picking the Texans, and that's where I'm going to leave this game. I'll have to make a game time decision on it, but right now, preemptively, just assuming that Stroud plays, I'm going with the Texans. Then we have the New York Jets, New Jersey Jets going to the Miami Dolphins. Now, again, Jets have an amazing defense. They usually do not score 30 points on offense, as evidenced by the Falcons game. But Zach Wilson is a wild card there. Miami Dolphins, though, coming off of a Monday Night Football loss where they should have won that game, were up by 13 points with, I think, 3.5 minutes left and found incredible ways to lose that game. They go as Tyreek Hill goes. And if Tyreek Hill is playing and is on fire, then he stretches the field and opens up that entire offense. Raheem Mostert, Devin Achane, and then who else they got? Oh, Jalen Waddle. All dynamic weapons, but they do still go as Tyreek Hill goes. With that in mind, I am going to pick the Miami Dolphins. I don't think that the talent is there from the Jets to really make up the difference in Miami. So I will be picking the Dolphins with this one to be 10-4 at the end of this week. Then we go to the New York Giants at the New Orleans Saints. Tommy DeVito having a great game against the Green Bay Mother-Loving Packers, finding a way to win and snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. I don't know what to say here. The New Orleans Saints are in New Orleans. I do think with Derek Carr healthy that they are a better team overall. I think that they're going to find a way to come back and win this game somehow. I don't think the Giants stand much of a chance. I am going to pick the Saints, who are going to be tied with the Falcons for number 1 in the division at the end of this week, assuming both teams win. So, yeah, give me the New Orleans Saints here. It is going to be a lot closer than America thinks it will be, and I would not be overly surprised to see the Giants win. It is in New Orleans, though, so that's why I'm giving the edge to the Saints. Then you have the Kansas City Chiefs going to the New England Patriots. New England has finally hinted that they are going to be moving on from Bill Belichick after 23 seasons, where he has only had like 3 losing seasons in that entire time, but most of them coming here towards the end of his career. Bill Belichick will find a job if he wants one somewhere else. I think he should retire and kind of go out as the one of the winningest coaches of all time, most Super Bowl wins of all time. But I don't know what he'll end up doing. I think his ego will probably push him to another team. I hope it's not Atlanta. But then you have the Kansas City Chiefs, who are coming off of a loss this past week to the Buffalo Bills. A lot of questionable calls this past game, but I would say the Kansas City Chiefs are still not a bad team. They're just not as dynamic as they have been in the past, and I do look for them to be 9-5 at the end of this week. So give me the Kansas City Chiefs. Then we have the Washington Commies at the LA Rams. Washington Commies, they're finding ways to stay competitive in games. They are coming off of a bye. But again, finding ways to stay competitive, but just not closing the deal. And against teams with prolific offenses, they don't look good. The Rams, I thought, would beat the Raiders this past week. They should have beat them. They had them on the ropes for most of the game, but just fell short in overtime. But I do think that the Rams are a more dynamic team. They have more weapons overall. Kyron Williams, had he been healthy, had they had all of their pieces healthy for the entire season, I think the Rams, I think we're talking about like an 8-5 team that are basically a lock for a wild card spot, and I think this game is going to help edge them closer to that wild card spot. They'll be 7-7 at the end of it. Give me the Rams. Then we have the San Francisco 49ers at the Arizona Cardinals. I don't have a lot to say here. The 49ers are playing complete football right now. They look like a team that cannot be stopped. I know they had a little bit closer game with the Seahawks than we thought they would, but they do not look like a team that can be stopped right now. There's just too many weapons on that team. Brock Purdy's playing like a top 10 quarterback because of it. I don't have a lot to say here. Arizona, you're going to be 3-11 at the end of this week, and the 49ers are going to be 11-3. So give me the 49ers. Then we have a very, very solid Sunday afternoon football game with the Dallas Cowboys at the Buffalo Bills. Now, Dallas coming off of a huge win against the Philadelphia Eagles, where they basically crushed them in Dallas. The Eagles just did not show up at all and have been falling off a little bit over the last couple of weeks, having to come back to win games. I just don't think that Dallas is going to continue that this week because the Buffalo Bills need to win this game. This is a game that is a must-win game for the Bills to stay alive in the AFC wildcard race. And even for their division race, they have to win this game. And because of that, because it's in Buffalo, it's going to be in cold weather, there's maybe going to be some snow, I am going to pick the Buffalo Bills here and go against the grain of America. I do think it could be a close matchup. I think it's going to be whoever runs the ball better. And James Cook has not looked like a bad running back the last couple of weeks. Then we go to, the Baltimore Ravens at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Baltimore Ravens finding a way to win in overtime against the Rams. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, again, playing relatively decent football, but not really getting it done when they need to here. I am going to say the Baltimore Ravens win this one. I don't have a lot to say here. I think Jacksonville can make this really competitive. With it being Sunday Night Football, I think anything can happen. But the Baltimore Ravens, of all the teams, are somehow healthiest in the AFC North right now. I don't know how that happened, but somehow the Baltimore Ravens, who have perennially been hurt, are now the healthiest team there. Even with Mark Andrews out, you got weapons like Zay Flowers, you got Odell Beckham Jr., who came alive last week. You still have Lamar Jackson, who is playing closer to MVP caliber like he did a few years ago. So give me the Baltimore Ravens. Then we have the Philadelphia Eagles, at the Seattle Seahawks. Woo! Gotta learn how to edit these videos one day. Anyways, Philadelphia Eagles coming off a tough loss against the Dallas Cowboys. And they're really coming off of, I think they've had 2 losses in a row here. They had the 49ers and they've had the Cowboys, both of which could end up being a repeat of the NFC conference game, NFC championship game this coming postseason. And they lost both of them, but they're going to the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle, don't know if Geno Smith is back yet, but they played a very good competitive game this past week against the 49ers. I just think the Eagles are a better team from top to bottom. Give me the Philadelphia Eagles. That's all I got for you today, guys. Thank you for watching, liking, sharing, and subscribing. And as always, rise up.